Hi, I'm Beth. Thank you for joining me for today's practice. This is another practice in my BYOB series. This time it's Banish Your Own Backache. So we are going to do some yoga asana or physical postures that will be designed to create more stability in the area of your back, hopefully some more mobility and some strength as well. Now you can use this as a prehab, so to help prevent pain, as a rehab if you've had back pain or injury, but remember, definitely check with your doctor first to see if these kind of yoga movements, which will be gentle, will be okay for your body. You will need a blanket for this practice. Any firm blanket, a really thick towel will do. We'll be using it for some of the exercises. So let's come down to lying on your back to start. So find a comfortable place on your back with your feet on the mat and knees bent. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to invite in some gentle movement and mobility with pelvis rocks or pelvic rocks. So I'm going to rock my tailbone down toward the floor so that my back arches away. I'm going to try to move my top so that you can see this. So as I move my tailbone more down to the floor, press my shoulder blades down, there's a big arch, a lot of space in my low back area. And then I'm going to do the reverse. I'm going to curl my tailbone under, press my low back tightly into the floor, almost lift the bottom of my tailbone. So not a huge lift, but almost the bottom part of my tailbone comes down as my low back presses really strongly into the floor. And then I'm going to go back and forth between that a few times. Now, if you do have some discomfort in your back, some of this might cause greater discomfort. Really never let that get into a pain scale. If it's just a little bit uncomfortable, you may be able to work through the discomfort and come out on the end feeling better. But if this is causing any sharp, shearing pain or anything like that, burning sensation, you definitely want to skip that. These exercises will be designed to mix and match and choose what works best for you. All right, let's just do a few more rocks. So pressing down your back, whole lower back into the ground, tipping it up. And then the next time you press down, stay with your low back, really press into the floor for a moment, and then release, but don't come all the way up into your back arch. So let that go softly so that your back hip points, you can feel your frontal hip points at the front of your hip bones, the front of your pelvis. The points on the back are pressing into the floor. The back of your waistband is pressing into the floor. But above your waistband, there's just a little bit of space. Maybe you could slide a piece of paper underneath. Not that big arch that we did before, a little bit of space. You can also think of these two front hip points drawing in more toward each other. They're not going to move a lot, but it's that idea of letting all the muscles, all the abdominal muscles, all the core muscles engage here. This is your neutral back position, your neutral spine. So from this neutral spine, keeping that low back pressed in with that little bit of space above your waistband, take one leg. I'm going to start with the leg closest to you and allow the knee to start moving out toward the side without moving anything in your back. So without leaning toward that side, without changing the amount that your back is pressing toward the floor. Our back and our hips are connected. So this really helps with our mobility, our stabilization, when we get movement while keeping stable and strong. Take that knee back up and go down to the other side. So obviously I'm moving super slowly here. And that is part of the point so that we don't move quickly and get out of this stable alignment in the back. Come back through the center. We'll do that a few times on each side. If you find that you're able to engage, you can go a little faster if it's not making you lose that engagement. If you're struggling to maintain that engagement, keep it nice and slow. Now we can work the breathing into this. The breath can really help to minimize pain or help to bring more oxygen and energy to the pain. Obviously we're breathing anyway, but when we breathe intentionally, it can help to nourish our bodies as we're moving through discomfort. So last time, let's do it with breath. Let's breathe in, and you might feel a little bit more pressing of your back against the floor as you breathe in. And as you exhale, keep that pressing of the low back, that neutral spine, as you let your one knee open out to the side. Breathe back in, breathing in through your nose for maximal control and benefit. And then exhale as you let the other knee move out to the side. And inhale, coming back to the center. Now find that neutral spine. Sometimes we lose it. We might have to go through a pelvic rock again. Keeping that neutral spine. Remember those back hip points, back pelvis pressing into the floor, but a little bit of space just around or just above your waistband. Keep that as you bring up one knee and then the other so that the knees are right over your hips. So check that alignment. Make sure you're not overly arched or overly tucked. Take a moment here, get used to this new shape. Now, of course, I'm looking toward you. Your best position for your head will be chin up, looking straight at the ceiling. So in that position, chin up, looking at the ceiling, take your arms up so your arms are stretching toward the ceiling, right over your shoulders, and knees are right over the hips. I actually peeked at mine to see, is this a nice 90-degree angle? It doesn't have to be exact, obviously. From here, we're going to keep that stability in the center of the body, and we're going to work toward moving opposite leg and opposite arm. Doesn't have to be a big movement. Sometimes a really small movement will really challenge our stability here. So I'm going to take my left leg forward a little bit, my right arm back a little bit. Now I'm going slow again so I can see that I can maintain stability in the center. If I feel that I have that stability, I might move the leg out toward straight, the arm a little further. If I start taking it lower, I can feel my back start to arch. So I'm going to stay right about here. Move everything in together. And then the opposite arm, opposite leg. Again, take it slowly as you explore where the point is on this part. Where is your edge that you start to lose that stability? Back off from that edge a little bit and hold at that stable place. And then come back through center. And we'll repeat this a few times. You may have seen this on hands and knees. On hands and knees, this is called bird dog. It's a really common movement in yoga. It's great for stability and balance. So this is an upside down bird dog. Sometimes this is also called a dead bug exercise. Bird dog seems a little nicer. But doing it this way, where our back is on the ground, rather than our hands and knees touching the ground, it removes some of the balance element and really makes it more a stabilization exercise for the back. And I would say for the entire midsection of the body, and that's really what we mean by your core, your abdominals, your hips, your back. So if you have a back ache, it might be something in your hips that's tweaky. It might be something at the hip flexors at the front of your body. Everything's connected. Let's do one more time and we can breathe with this. So breathe in the center. Exhale as you reach, and maybe as your body gets used to that, you're able to reach a little further and stay stable. Inhale back through center. Exhale and reach. Inhale back through center. And then we're just going to take the knees and pull them in toward the body any way that feels comfortable for your back. There will be a little rounding this time as your tailbone lifts away from the floor. Knees can be together. They can be further apart. Explore some movement here. Almost giving your low back a little bit of massage so you can go in circles in one direction and then the other. You can take your legs in sort of a crazy 8 position. You don't have to hold on to your hands. Just use your knees wider, closer. So again, we're using gravity here to help us explore some movement, some gentle mobility. Really, when the back is hurting, gentle movement is best so that we can start to mobilize the muscles again, get fluid in, move the tissues. Keep your own discomfort threshold low. All right, and then we will roll to one side. Then use the hands to help us come up. And we are going to come up to a kneeling position. So from kneeling, you'll place your hands under your shoulders, knees under your hips. So you've probably seen cat-cow in yoga where we round the body up into a cat, and then we allow the front body, the front torso to come down, tipping our pelvis into a cow. This is a bigger version of that pelvic tilt that we did. You can explore that for a moment and see if there's a position in here that helps make your back feel better. I'm going to stay rounded up into the cat. Move the hands a little closer to the body, so even more rounding in the low back. And we're going to explore moving the hands around, maybe off to the side a little bit, and do a gentle cat-cow here. Moving the hands in this way, closer and further, side to side, will change where you feel this in your low back. It's going to change the quality of the stretch. And will help you explore, is there somewhere in there that needs a little motion or movement? You can also come down to your forearms and do the same thing. Again, this will isolate that movement a little bit more into the low back. So arms relatively close to the body or right under the shoulders. And then again, you can explore a little bit of side to side. All right, back through center. We're going to continue that rounding, and we're going to come into child's pose. The way I like to get into it sometimes is to start seated on the heels first. And here's where I'm going to take my blanket. I already have my blanket folded in a rectangle shape. You can have it rolled. I'm going to make it a little bit thicker here, a little bit more narrow, and I'm going to place this right over the backs of my heels. So that when I sit, you can see that I come down to seated on the backs of my heels in child's pose. I like this version because it helps take the emphasis off pushing the heels back manually. I'm going to start to hinge forward right from my hip creases, so right from where the legs meet my pelvis. Hands come down to the ground. Knees are hip width apart, and then you can adjust to make them closer or wider. So I'll start with them hip width. And let's come down just to the forearms to start, and then see if you can round your back so that your head touches your forearms. So we're kind of like in a tight little ball version of child's pose. And then the first thing you can explore is, do your knees need to come out a little wider to give your body more space there? And then with keeping your hips back toward the blanket, we can start to explore maybe coming a little forward with the arms, or the arms still resting on the forearms. Or if you prefer more support under your torso, the knees can be closer together, so that's going to be less space for your body, but maybe a little bit more of something to rest on as you come down. So once you find your movement here, stay for a few breaths. Feel the breath come in. Maybe you can feel the breath more in your back body. So as you're stretched out or rounded out, breathe into your rib cage, into your back lungs. And then walk your hands in. We'll come up. We'll take the blanket out. We'll take it back into its little rectangle shape. Place it on the mat so that on the mat it's going to be somewhere supporting the chest and the rib cage. Now, if this version, we're going into a version of sphinx. If the blanket doesn't feel comfortable there, You can either make it lower than what I have or eliminate the blanket altogether. I like this supported version of Sphinx. Remember, everything we're trying is an experiment to see how it feels in your body and if it helps. That's certainly our goal. So with your blanket in front of you, start to walk yourself forward. And you'll see that I actually have the blanket a little bit under my chest, right along my rib cage. I'm stretching my toes back. Move up a little bit so you can see me. And then my arms are going to come about right under my shoulders. Now here I'm wiggling my feet back a little bit more. I tuck one toe and then the other. Just try to emphasize length in the back. We don't want any pain in the low back here. Move your chest forward as if you're pulling with your forearms to stretch your torso, the back part of your torso, even longer. And that's where the blanket here can be really helpful to create a little bit more space in the low back. Now, if this is too much of a strain on your low back, definitely move your arms forward a little bit more so you can be a little bit lower. If this feels okay, you can experiment with how it feels to press one forearm into the ground and then lift the elbow on the other side. And maybe even look over that shoulder. Now you'll see how as we move this around, feel the stretch in different places. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking to move how the stretch feels and see if we can find a spot to hold that feels helpful and useful. Then I'll come down to this side. So pressing my right forearm, straightening my left. It doesn't have to come all the way straight. This takes the stretch more into the left side, definitely the left side low back. And then I can explore looking over my shoulder a little bit. If that feels okay, it does for me. Come down. And we'll finish up here. We'll round back. So this is an arching of the back. This is a little bit of a back bend. As we press into our hands and our knees, we round. And you can come back into child's pose. You can use the blanket over your shins if you like that. You can also turn the blanket around and use it under your torso for a moment. You can even come all the way up into your lap and give you more support there. So about 3 more breaths in your version of child pose that feels good. Again, using the breath to nourish your body. Perhaps as you breathe in, you might feel that again in the back body, facing toward the ceiling. And as you exhale, maybe soften and release a little bit more, even extending the exhale a beat or two longer than the inhale. After your next full breath, start to walk your hands in and come up. We're going to move into a side lying position with the blanket. This is another pose that you'll need to adjust. So I'm going to take my blanket from this rectangle that I have right now, give it another fold so it's a pretty tight, small rectangle. Place that on the center of my mat. I'm going to roll over. Actually, what I'll do is I'll sit my hip right on the side with my knees out to the side. So let's try it like that. Might feel a little awkward to get into. Sometimes yoga is a little awkward. Slide down so you can see me. All right, so we're in like a little chair with our legs. This one hip is right on the blanket. Adjust to however feels good for you. Other hand is supporting us. We'll use this bottom hand to gently help ourselves to the floor. Now this feels really far away, so you have to take your time to allow yourself to stretch all the way down. You might have to slide a little bit further on the blanket like I did. Eventually getting yourself down to this kind of a shape. And then we'll take this top leg and stretch it out long. So this bottom knee is staying bent. Top leg is out long. There will be space under your side body. Just rest here. Your top arm can be like a little kickstand here. It can stretch over your head if that feels comfortable. So look for long length from your fingertips to your toes. Now you might notice here that the stretch is really moved into the side of the hips, the glutes. Remember, we talked about it's all connected. You can also lean this stretch forward a little bit, using your top arm to reach away if you'd like. And that can move the stretch back into your lower side back. This muscle back here, the quadratus lumborum, that's a muscle that often can be responsible for back pain. So we can try to bring more mobility into that area. All right, one more deep, nourishing breath here. Remember to use your breath. Even if I don't remind you, use your breath. Taking a slightly longer exhale can help relax everything a little bit more. All right, we'll walk our hands up. Now you might just want to flip over so you're facing away from me. I'll turn the other way so I can stay facing you. And remember, we start with the hips, the side of the hip on the blanket, knees come out, legs are stacked. You can also have a blanket between your legs if the stack is not comfortable there. Slowly taking your time, stretch yourself out. And you can have a little pillow under your head too if you need something extra here. Once you feel like you're relatively supported on the blanket, stretch your top leg out long, wherever it goes. So it might remain a little bent. If it comes straighter, that's good too. Reaching the bottom of the foot away from you, wherever your leg lands. Reaching your top arm, the one that's stretched out supporting you, reaching that arm. If you'd like, reaching the other arm out too. Or taking this top arm and using it as a little kickstand wherever you need it. Maybe it's out front a little bit more. Maybe it's closer to your body. And find your edge, your stretch. Sometimes a particular move or posture is not going to give you a stretch feeling. That's okay too. You can still get benefits even if you don't feel something. Focusing on the shape of your body and the release, so not holding on where you don't have to hold on. And that includes your face, scrunching up your jaw. And as we stay just a little longer, again, you can try tilting forward. Oh, that gave me a nice little movement of the stretch to right around here for me. And maybe it doesn't for you. You can also tilt backward a little bit. See if that helps open up your front hip flexor area a little bit more. A little more mobility. When I say open, I just mean more mobility, more strength, more ability to move. All right, one more breath on this side. And we'll walk our way back up. We're going to do another movement starting on our side in a similar fashion, except this time we'll take the blanket, we'll take it to the bigger rectangle and have it in front of us. I'm going to swing back to the first side. All right, so we'll come onto our side with our knees in front of us again. This time, though, it's going to be my bottom leg that stretches out long. And here's where, if you'd like, your top knee can come right to the blanket. And maybe it needs to be a little bit more puffed up than this. So the knee doesn't have to come to anything, but the blanket is a nice little addition here. And then we're going to come all the way down again with our hands stretched out in front of us this time. So one knee bent, arms stretched out, touching each other, side of the head on the ground. And from here, we'll open up into a twist. This front knee is going to stay down as we open into the twist. So that's where having the blanket is really useful. You can build that up more with a block or several blankets. So take a breath in. And as you exhale, start to drag the top arm along your body as you begin to open, widen across the collarbones. Move this opposite shoulder, or on the same side of the knee, but opposite to the hand that's stretched out, back toward the floor. As you stretch the back hand out, I'm hitting the wall here. You can have cactus arms too. So the goal is to have this back shoulder come down. You'll see mine is not coming down all the way. Sometimes as we move through this a few times, we start to get to that more. And when I say goal, I mean the direction. So the direction is to have that back shoulder come toward the floor. It doesn't have to touch. So continuing to breathe as we move forward and back. And this is a spinal twist, so we're opening up around the spine. And at the same time, there's a lot of mobility for the hips. So you might feel a nice sensation in your back, your whole back, not even just your lower back as you twist. And yet this stability of the hips might also produce some stretch for you here. So I think one more time we'll make it 5. Remember, all of these exercises, you can just choose the ones that work best for you. You do not have to do this whole practice. I tried to make it work as a whole practice together if you want to do it that way, but it's not necessary. All right, so I'm going to push myself up, scooch around to the other side. I'm going to try to be a little further from the wall so that maybe you can see me stretch. And I think this is actually my a little bit more stretchy side. You might have one too. So start with both knees in front of you. Come to lying down on your side, and then we'll stretch the bottom leg out. Top knee can rest on the blanket if you like, and you can have it wherever. You can have just the knee on the blanket. You can have the whole shin. I'll stretch the arms straight out in front. Breathe in. And then we exhale, slide the top hand across the body. You can feel that width across the collarbone as you open to the back. And then breathing back in, exhaling back front. Scooch even a little bit more toward you. Maybe you can see that a little better. Breathe and open. And come back. And yeah, my knee lifted a little bit that time, so I'm going to try to press my knee down gently and keep that stability so my hips stay stacked as I open up. That'll just give me a little bit more of a twist. My back shoulder is not going to come to the ground. If I did this maybe 20 times, my back shoulder would start moving a little closer to the ground. And if you find this feels really comfortable on your body, then yes, I encourage you, do it 20 times. Do it for a minute and see how that feels. And you can always stay in this open position, stay in this twist for a little longer if you'd like as well. It's really nice to have the knee supported, your body's open. You can take this front arm, press the elbow a little bit into the arm to help you twist even a little more if you're going to stay. And then we'll come back out. And we'll finish up this practice with a supported bridge. So you'll have your blanket, and this is another place where you can adjust the width of your blanket. I think I'm going to make mine a little higher. We'll come back to the position that we started on, which is our knees bent, our hips on the floor. This time, we'll take that little pelvic rock, so you can arch first, and then you can tuck and lift the tailbone, press into your feet so that you do lift off the ground, just enough to slide your blanket, roll, stack, whatever, underneath. Now find a place where it feels comfortable. And here, comfortable means that your back hip bones are supported. It feels effortless to just let your hips melt into the blanket. You don't really have to do anything to hold. And the blanket's not digging into your waistband at all. And if it feels like it's digging somewhere into your low back or back waist, you just have to give the blanket a little push down closer to your feet. So if you've never done this before, it can take a little adjusting to find out where the place is for you. Now this can feel so nice and supported. You can stay here and rest as long as you like if this is feeling really great for your body. You can also do it with the knees gently touching each other. As you stay here, feel the bottom of your back ribs and see if you can soften them further toward the ground. They'll probably be up a little bit depending on how high you have your blanket, but really let them soften so everything behind is just softening as your hips are supported. And as I said, you stay here, but I want to show you one more option. And this last option is to stretch one leg out and then the other. Now, by stretching the legs out, it might exaggerate your low back arch a little bit more. And I find when I have my legs straight, I need the blanket even a little further toward my feet so that my waist can sink toward the floor. And then when I do this release feeling moves into the front part of my thighs, the front part of my hips. There's multiple muscles forming the hip flexors. Those muscles, when we say flex, that means that flexing is like this. When we bend at this hip crease, that's our flexion. There's multiple muscles that do that. And guess how most of us are all day? We're seated in chairs and we're like this. So they're always kind of on and contracting. Stretching them out like this can provide a really nice release. So it's one of my favorite ways to rest. Now please stay here as long as you'd like. Whenever you are ready, you'll place your feet back down if they were stretched out, lift off your prop, and you'll gently roll your body to the side like we did before to help lift yourself up. Now, a quick reminder that this practice is designed for you to figure out what works best for your body. So the Banish Your Own Back Pain, the BYOB, really you bring yourself to the practice, you figure out what works best for you, you do the moves that work, and if then I move into something that doesn't work, stay into the previous posture that was working for you. A personalized practice is a mindful yoga practice. In my mind, it's an advanced yoga practice. If you want to learn more about personalizing practice for you, check up here my VIP Variations for Individualized Practice series, and I'll link to some other practices as well. Please like, subscribe, let me know what worked, what didn't work, make a comment, and I will do more of what works for you. Have a great rest of your day.